Hello, welcome. I'm going to do a video on unit details and unit stats and what all this means, but I figured I'd start out first with a video on HP, on strength damage and organization damage. In the Division Designer, strength is called HP and it is slightly different. So what is the difference between strength and HP? Well, this is strength. On this infantry division, we have 100% strength, we have 202 HP. They are closely related, but not quite the same. And then there's also org. Org is also semi-related, but in a different way. HP plays directly into strength. Org is related in that if you take 50 org damage, you're going to take 30 HP damage. How do I know that? Well, let's just bring up a calculator. There are two dices that get rolled every time a successful attack occurs. One for org damage, one for HP damage. The org damage is a four-sided die. That gives you 2.5 as your expected value of each roll. Let's divide that by the expected value of each strength damage roll. The strength damage roll is a two-sided die, so your expected value is 1.5. So 1.67 is the difference. You take approximately 67% more org damage than you take HP damage for every successful attack. So if you take 50 and divide it by 1.67, you get about 30. So let's just show that. If I attack here, I have way more than 50 org here. So we're going to let this battle go until one of these divisions is at about 28 org. They're attacking, they're the same division, so they're obviously going to lose. So 27.4 org. I missed it by a tick. I'm going to blame it on the autosave, but that's fine. Before we stop the battle, I can tell you right now, our strength is going to be about 85%. And if we look at it, it is 85%. Let's stop the battle, and then immediately our strength goes up. It went up to 89%. So let's just start with the first part, 85%. Why were we at 85%? Well, we lost about 50 org, so we took about 30 HP damage. But 30 divided by 202 is about 15%. And that's how strength relates to HP. The more HP you have, the less strength damage you take, and then there's an added thing on top. We're going to multiply this by 0.7. At the end of a battle, you get back 30% of your losses just by default. That's just a part of the define, you get it back. So if we were to split this one division off, so we have this division in its own theater, we can now see its losses, and we can just check our proportion of losses. So 30 divided by 202 multiplied by 810 multiplied by 0.7 is about 84. We lost 79. It's not exact. There's a bit of randomness to it, but it's pretty close. Like 3 divided by 27 is 11.1. 1 divided by 12, 8.33. Rounded in our favor. Well, rounded, nothing in paradox math rounds. And then 2 divided by 20, they're all about 10% losses. That's why when you have an Excel spreadsheet, and let me just load one up, with a ton of losses, you'll see me go, well, but that's expected. So like here, I was doing a little bit of testing, attacking with different divisions into 10 with infantry. And you'll notice these are all about the same. Why? Because they lost, which means they lost all of their org, which means if they had 60 org, they took about 36 HP damage, which would translate into a certain strength damage depending on what the HP of that division was. That's why these losses are always consistent. You really don't need to run this test more than a few times because you really just need to know, did they win? If they don't win, they're going to take the same losses every time. If they do win, say over here, then it matters how well they won. How much org damage did they take to win? Because the more org damage you took, the more strength damage you took. And the losses to equipment are proportional. It doesn't matter that different equipment has different HP values and adds different amounts to the division. Like with tanks, tanks have notoriously poor HP, whereas mech have very good HP. So if we attack with these guys, and we might win because they're armored, we'll see two things. One, being armored reduces your damage, the damage you take by 50%, both org and strength. It also increases your damage by 40%, not 50, 40. The math for that is quite simple. You're going from a 4-sided die to a 6-sided die, which means your expected value is going from 2.5 to 3.5. 3.5 divided by 2.5 is 1.4. Hold on. Let me just drop 4 of these divisions out of combat. Now it'll actually take some strength damage. So we've now taken 50 org damage. How much strength damage did we just take? Well, it depends on the HP of the division. We just took 30 HP damage. And if we come over here, we're 72. It's about right. So if we end this battle, we'll instantly go back up to 81%. That is just strictly because you get 30% back. Now let's look at our losses. we lost 32 medium tanks, 24 mechanized. If we look at the division, well, that's approximately proportional. 150 divided by 120 times 24 is 30. We lost slightly more medium tanks. That's just random variance. There was a little bit of RNG in what you're actually losing. The actual HP of the equipment doesn't matter. What matters is the HP of the division. This is why mech is so good. If you compare mech to motorized, it is a pretty substantial HP decrease. So if we take this armor division that's 30 with 6 mechanized, we drop out the motorized, and we just lost 30 HP. That's a substantial amount of equipment we're going to lose because we just swapped to motorized. We did also lose 200 defense, and that's the other reason you go for mechanized. That HP reduction means we're going to take about 19% more losses for the same amount of org loss. So HP is quite significant. The higher your HP is, the less strength damage you take, the less equipment you lose, the less manpower you lose for every point of org damage. You can think of them like that because they are intrinsically related. And for every 10 points of org damage you take, you're going to take about 6 HP damage. How much strength damage that is going to be relative. It's going to be relative. It depends on how much HP you have. Also, your IC to HP ratio. The more IC you have per point of HP, the more IC losses you're going to take. That is also quite important. And then don't forget, you're going to get 30% of your losses back. Anyways, that was a lot of rambling about strength damage and HP damage and how they relate and how they're tangentially related to org damage. Anyways, thank you for watching. I will do a full video on the rest of the stats within a division. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.